on Unity Day to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, one of the forefathers of our freedom struggle, and I think one of the icons and the legends who set us on the path to become the country that we've become today. And second, it's ironical that when we are speaking about youth, and I cannot resist this, I think now many of you sitting here are aware, that I have a little of a penchant for sport. So I can't help but mention the outstanding performance of the women in blue last night, and the fact that it was engineered, by a group of young women, whether it was Jamie Rodriguez or Ritika Ghosh, I think Amanjot Kaur and Deepti Sharma, just to mention a few, and of course the entire team, which showed the kind of grit and determination which possibly they were not associated with earlier in the tournament, but managed to bring that out at the right moment when their backs were against the wall and they were in two must-win situations. Now, speaking of the day today, I'm sure proceedings today have been beneficial to the large number of young people here. It was definitely beneficial and very interesting to somebody not as young as me, possibly not as young as General Param Minhas, my dear friend who's been enduring enough to sit here through the day. I see him still sitting here. So, session by session, very quickly. Now, the first session, future of defense and youth at the heart of national security. I'll start with Major Radhika Sen, and she spoke about the dimensions of national security. But in her talk, the two aspects that really caught my eye were the fact that she spoke about national disasters and pandemics and whether youth could be involved. And I was thinking, I am the father of twin girls, one who's a climate change specialist and the other a microbiologist. And both are immensely aware and are situationally aware of situations that prevail in these regard. And therefore, her argument that can youth be involved in these aspects is definitely compelling, and it made sense to me. Her question about have you ever stopped a fake news spread, set me thinking. I sat there and introspected that, how many forwards have I done that I shouldn't have. Recently, I was kind of encountered with a problem that concerned me. I'll speak about that a little later. But largely, I felt when I did introspect that I think I passed the test, because I'm slowly getting to a stage, where I'm becoming the responsible citizen that I should be, which many of the speakers have urged our younger people here to aspire to be, to think and deliberate before you actually hit the button. Vrinda Kapoor spoke about the magnitude of data centers, spoke about Huawei, possibly the most valuable company in the world, and the fact that they could have used backdoors to get to the contract stage, was a little concerning. The fact that, when we thought of the NAVIC system, we invested 200 crores to build a chip, which is integral to data centers, and then it never got to the contract stage. And what does the NAVIC have? Of course, it has a Chinese chip today. Now, the fact that your biometric devices could be transmitting data to Chinese data servers, or your Wi-Fi routers are possibly compromised, is a scary thought. But I think that's a problem that we became sensitive to, a couple of years ago, and I think we are slowly beginning to address that. Tanmay, he was like what should I say? I think reminded me of a little line in Three Idiots. He was like a breath of fresh air, hawa ka jhonka. He spoke about resilience during failure, and the fact that he's heading 250 engineers, all under 25. The fact that they went to Pokhran, all drones failed, but yet he aspires to do a spider's web. It was, I think, extremely refreshing to hear. The chief, of course, came and spoke as as assertively as he always does, 2.5 fronts, spoke about cyber threats, demographic dividends, but his parting message about to the young people to build technologies and shape policy was, I think, the big takeaway from his talk today. The Honorable Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, of course, dwelled on the fact that why are we still not a developed nation and what we could possibly do to do that in the next 22 years. And I think we are extremely grateful to him for the fact that he acknowledged that the Indian Army is a unique force, while underlying the fact that how peculiarly he's been associated with it, coming as he does from the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Session 2, ladies and gentlemen, empowering youth for India's defense. Now, Aditi Prasad, very interesting line that every citizen is a soldier, even though not in uniform. And the fact that defense is a national resilience. I often hear our Chief of Army Staff speak about NCC cadets, but I think she took it a little beyond that. And, it's of course an aspiration that there will be such a sensitivity in younger people for them to be not only situationally aware, but to be involved in national defense. But then that is related to a certain culture, which is what the Honorable Member of Parliament spoke later in the day about. And that will slowly have to be inculcated. She also said that in grey zone, the first responder is the citizen. That's arguable, whether that happens or not. Ideally, it should be. But whether that response is the kind of response that we are looking at is something that, you probably have to discuss and arrive at. She also spoke about the success globally, or the models that have been successful in countries. I think she quoted a few, Israel, Finland. Whether that model can work is a country which is as large and as diverse as ours. I'm not very certain about that. Colonel Sophia Qureshi spoke about channelizing the energies of the youth, and her examples of war heroes were not only inspiring but also hair-raising. And I heard her say that, can you feel the goosebumps? I did. I can relate to that because I was a young officer with 10 years of service when the Kargil war happened. And I have somehow coincidentally been involved in all the recent ones, be it Operation Sindoor or the one before that during Galwan, where I was again part of the Military Operations Directorate, or Pulwama, where I was posted there again. So somehow I could relate to what she was saying. Antara Ghoshal spoke about the grey zone and highlighted the use of grey zone by our adversaries. And that's something that we hear and speak about a lot. I think that's a problem that's staring us in the face. She also spoke about building capacities. And I think she was asked a question by somebody from the audience as to what is, maybe it wasn't framed in the manner that it should have been, but the onus cannot be only on the armed forces to build these capacities where, the sensitivities in the population can be raised to combat this grey zone. And I think that's something that we need, to work out models for so that it can succeed. Because, if you were to think that the armed forces can do this by themselves, then I would think that it would be a very gargantuan kind of a task and not very, very easily achievable. Mr. Tejasvi Surya, the Honorable Member of Parliament, a very invigorating talk, I thought, that dwelled on culture and good work ethics. It sounds very simple as to why we are the way we are. But our problems are peculiar. But I think his 6 mantras that he gave out for the youth in the end, well, if you could actually execute those, I think we'd be much better people. I think those 6 mantras would also make, they would stand a generation such as Gen Z, which is often perceived as soft, in very good stead if they were actually to follow that. The third session, unfortunately I just missed the earlier part of it. Youth as catalyst in new domains of warfare. I heard a question being asked of Anshuman. His discussions, his discourses and his arguments are always very compelling. The fusion of Chinese and Pak capabilities as far as the cyber or the space domains are concerned. And I think much has been said and written about this, at least as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. So I don't need to dwell on that, but I think it's a challenge that India faces. Social media, Shalini, she's still here. I think a very fascinating interpretation. Cited the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, then went into the neighborhood. Spoke about the meltdowns, and I think her underlying theme that finally it is man that does this, and finally it is man that has to become sensitive to the fact that that I must not do this, that I must not press this link, and as simple as it may sound, but I think we're still far from doing it. And this is where I want to mention, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago that I stood here and spoke in a conclave that was telecast live through the day. And only a few days later, there was a video of mine circulating, obviously propagating views that are nowhere closer to the manner in which I think. I don't know who did that, whether it was a deep fake, it did not sound like me. So many people who know me very well know that I do not speak like that. And yet, it was forwarded to me by so many that could have actually forwarded the original to me and said that, Rajiv, you spoke well, or Rajiv, you did not speak well. But what they chose to do was forward this fake one to me and said, we hope that you are aware and you are doing something about this. So, this is the world that we live in. Now, whether that stems from you being happy about somebody else's distress, I do not know. But I found that very amusing. I'm not somebody who's going to get very perturbed and rattled by this. If somebody else from the other side decided to do this, well, I'll just think that I'm saying or doing something right which is concerning them. Sanjana Rathi, I think, very interesting point you made about younger people not making eye contact. Both as a parent and as somebody senior enough in the organization, this is something that concerns me, and I completely resonate with you. I see it all around me, and growing up in an army where we were told that if you read and speak clearly, you'll go places. I see that that's a skill that is getting eroded. Notwithstanding the fact that when the Honorable Member of Parliament walked in today, he told me that I go to so many conclaves, and all presentations or discussions that are made to me by people from the armed forces are always they're very well put across and they're very articulate. But I still feel that that's a skill that's getting eroded, and precisely for the reasons that Sanjana spoke about. So her argument about cyber psychology and what is it doing to our young people, I think that's something that all of you sitting here need to understand. Somebody earlier today gave some statistics about I don't know if it was Sophia, but 2 hours or 28 minutes of whatever screen time every day, that's the average. I don't know, that doesn't sound so bad, but it's an area where we need to look inwards at. So finally, at the end of the day, my message to the young people who are sitting here is that you had a variety of speakers from various fields and domains come and speak to you here today. I hope that was our endeavor. To bring them and their thoughts to you, so that it can make a difference to you. And it is now left for me to thank the Strategic Planning Directorate, the officiating DG of Strategic Planning, General Neeraj Shukla, and the Center for Land and Air Warfare Studies, and General Dushant for organizing this wonderful Youth Leaders Forum, which of course, as you know, is like a launching pad for the Chanakya Defense Dialogue, which will follow in November. So we will have another event somewhere in mid-November, and then of course the conclave and the dialogue itself at the end of November. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting through the day. I enjoyed the discussions, and I'm sure that you did too. Thank you, and Jai Hind.